Hey there, class. It's Faisal coming at you with your June 3rd class for ENG4U. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about citation, right? Which is a very important topic in academia and something that you'll certainly have to do quite a bit during university. So, citation. Before we talk about the mechanics of it, which are fairly complicated, let's just ask this question, which is, why do we cite? Why do we cite things? So, there are two reasons we do it, right? The first reason is so that readers can look up what we were saying or talking about. Right, let me add that there. Talking. So, if I am reading your essay and you've got a quote from Gravel, or you've got a quote from the Canadian government, or you've got a quote from something, right? Or some sort of statistic where you're saying, child abuse takes place in 23% of households in Canada or something like that. What I need to be able to do is, if I'm interested, I should be able to say, oh, okay, that's an interesting fact. I'd like to know more. And I should be able to look at your citations and find the place where you are getting your information from, right? This is a key thing in academia, right? Because academics are always building on each other's work, right? And if you can see where someone's data is getting from it, where someone is getting their data or information from, then you want to be able to look it up and use it for yourself, right? So that's reason number one. Reason number two is giving credit to the people that we use as sources, right? As you guys will discover as you go into universities and colleges, credit is the heart of academia. You don't give someone credit, and academics very much do treat it as stealing. So plagiarism is a great offense, and so is the theft of ideas. So if I, take something from this article about child abuse or something like that, right, and treat it as if I made it, then I am stealing from those authors, right? So we cite them in order to give them credit, right? So that is what I would say about that, right? That's why we do it. But that's the why. Let's talk about the how. So in this class, we're using MLA citation, which is commonly used in language courses and social science courses throughout North America. MLA standing for Modern Language Association. So what I'm about to teach you is MLA Style. And there are different styles of citations, right? The way you cite in a science paper might be in a slightly different format or a very different format than the way you cite in an English or social science class. But generally speaking, there are two main principles that you're going to follow in your paper. So, first, you need an in-text citation. I'm going to give you guys a link to this wonderful website from a website called Purdue OWL, right? OWL standing for Online Writing Lab, and Purdue being a university in America. They have a very, very thorough listing of what you do for different kinds of sources to cite them, right? So that is going to be included in today's lesson, right? I'm going to give you guys a link to this wonderful website, right? Which you should all bookmark, quite honestly. But here's an in-text citation is when you put the author's name in brackets after the quote or the information that you are citing. Now, if it's a book, right, you should cite the page number, right? Although Shakespeare's different. We'll talk about that when we get to Othello. Although, if you're planning on doing the Macbeth question, just remember last quad I talked about how to cite Macbeth. But for the citation of these sources, right, if it's a book, you put the page number. but I haven't given you guys a book, right? Because I've been giving you, online sources, so you shouldn't be putting page numbers, even if it's the gravel story, which I know has a page number, right? Because it's in Microsoft Word. But no, you only put a page number when you have a physical book. If it's a PDF or if it's an online source, then there's no page number. So let's see some examples of what I'm doing here. So let's see. When Neil yells at the girl for playing in front of the trailer dangerously, the narrator says that was, quote, one of the first times that I saw him act like a father, end quote. And then right over here, I've got in brackets Monroe, right? Because it's written by Alice Monroe. That's her last name. There you go. Right? So if you guys quote the story in your essays, which you should, all you have to do is put Monroe, right? So that is couldn't be easier, right? It's a nice simple way of doing things. Now, if you use other sources, which you absolutely can, and some of them might call for it more than others, but you absolutely can and should use outside sources, then you can cite those too as follows, right? So let's see. In Canada today, authorities are concerned that the pandemic and closure of schools is going to lead to more child abuse, right? So that is a bit of information that I got from this article from CTV News, right? And the authors are Havery Ains and Alexander May Jones, right? So two people wrote it. So I just put in brackets here Jones and Haynes, right? And that's all, right? I don't need to put the title. I don't need anything else, right? Just Jones and Haynes, right? Now, you might also have situations where you get an article with no author listed. Oh, like, say, for instance, here, I've got this sentence. According to our government, neglect is when a parent has a failure to supervise leading to physical harm, right? And that's from the Canadian government, right? It's child maltreatment in Canada, right? We see this website that I'm looking at, and these kinds of websites, they're good sources, right? Because of our government, but you're not going to see an author on it, right? Because it's not a statement by single person, it's the statement of the government. So in brackets, I just put Canada, right, as in the Canadian government, as the author there, right? Because that's your corporate author, I guess you could say. Now, there are way too many different types of sources for me to tell you individually about how each one of these works, right? So this is where, again, that website from Al Purdue comes in handy, right? Because if you're not sure how to cite something, right, what you need to do is just look up how to do it. So let's say you wanted to cite, YouTube video, right? That's somewhere in here, right? It's somewhere. You might have to dig a bit. That's usually in, let's see, video. It's somewhere in here. Anyway, I'll look that up after. But nevertheless, if you have something that you want to cite, right, a speech or something, and you don't know how, guys, look it up, right? Not knowing how to do it is no reason to not do it, right? And it's better, quite frankly, to cite incorrectly than it is to not cite, right? Because citing incorrectly is a mistake on your paper. Not citing is plagiarism and a zero, right? So you don't want to cite incorrectly. You don't want to forget to cite, right? So just look up the way you're supposed to do it. This website is very handy for how to cite things, right? There's even this automatic citation maker that's at the top. More on that later. Anyhow, so by the way, you don't just cite quotes, right? If you take an idea from an article, like I did with the Jones and Haynes article here, then you need to cite that too. So if you're taking an idea from elsewhere, you should absolutely cite it, right? And don't think of it as a knock on your own paper when you cite an outside source, right? It's your way of giving credit to the other academics who are helping you. All right, so that's step one, the in-text citation, the name in brackets after the quote or after the idea that you are using. All right, that's step one. Now we come to step two. So step two is the works cited page, right? This is the last page of your essay, and it is, meant to be the list of sources that you have cited in your text, right? So basically, I figure out what you are citing here from Monroe, right? And then I should be able to go into your works cited section in order to find out how do I find Monroe, right? So it's that system that's being used, right? And all the citation systems use something like this. So once again, OWL is a great resource for this, right? For works cited. It can tell you exactly, how to cite a book, how to cite a website, right? Everything like that. It's very useful in that way. So that is the way that OWL does it, right? And it's a very useful source, right? So again, I love this website, OWL. The official way you're supposed to do works cited is author, then title of container, then other contributors, version, number, publisher, publication date, location, pages, paragraphs, URL, or DOI. Second container's title, other contributors, version, number, publisher, publication date, location, date of access, right? And you might be looking at that and thinking, oh God, that's a lot of stuff and it's very complicated. What should I do? Right? And it is kind of complicated, right? It's a very specific and particular system. But you're in luck because there are a lot of different websites that you can use to automate this process and make it a lot less painful, right? So the one I like to use is EasyBib, right, which you can find right here. So first of all, for gravel, which is what most of you are probably going to cite, I've already done the citation for it right here. So if all you use is gravel in your essay, right, if you only quote gravel and if you're only looking at gravel, everything else is just your ideas, right, then all you need is to put works cited and then this, right, gravel, right, because that Word document I gave you is pulled out of the New Yorker magazine, right? So there's your citation for gravel, right? So if that's all you have to do, then just go ahead and copy and paste that into your essay, and there you go. But if you cite other things, then you need to, well, put them into works cited, right? And it's not that hard, right? Let me do it right now for this CTV article, right? Now, let's see, CTV. I'm going to just copy the URL, and then I'm going to go to EasyBib, and I'm going to hit Create Citation. Sometimes it might ask you to watch an ad. Don't give them money, though, right? Because you don't need to give them money. So what I just did is I hit Create Citation, and I'm hitting Cite, and it finds all the information you need. It says what it's going to need your help with, right? And here it's saying that it doesn't know the publisher of CTV, right? So that's fine, right? We can do that because, right, you have Google, right? So I'm just going to go CTV publisher. And then I find out, no, okay, hold on. So I find out, usually with the first result, right, I just put in CTV News, and I find out that the publisher, by publisher they mean who owns it, right, it's CTV Television Network in Canada, right, so I'm going to go back to EasyBib, and, oh, it even says, CTV Television Network, right, so, you've already got it. Why did they ask me to find it? Huh. Okay, well, in some cases, some of this will be blank, and you just want to make sure you fill it in if it's not there. But then all you do is you hit Complete Citation, and what do you know? Where is it? Here it is. Let me copy bibliography citation, and then I go back here, and boom, I've got my citation finished, right? So the websites can do it for you. I should mention, when you do works cited, it should be in alphabetical order, right? So Haynes would go before Monroe, right? So you want to put your guys in alphabetical order. Don't give them a number or anything, but that's how it should be done. But yeah, that is the way you put together a works cited thing, right? Anything you have that does not or that you have need to cite, then you just throw it in there, and it will create the bibliography entry for you, right? So you could do it by hand, right, and looked up all of these things. A container, by the way, is a fancy name for just saying website, but ultimately, there are plenty of different websites that can do bibliography entries for you. Just again, don't give them any money, right? Because I don't want you guys to waste your money, right? If EasyBib will sometimes ask you to watch an ad, which is annoying, but what can you do? All right, so to summarize, step 1, InText Citation. Step 2, works cited, right? You need both these things, right? Works cited is the last page, and yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. So I'm expecting that in your essays, and I hope that this is fairly clear. I know that my grade 11 university students last quad did this for me already, and many of you did it well, but it's worth reviewing. It's worth getting this stuff right, because if you don't do this right in university, you're going to get in a ton of trouble. Now, a couple of other notes that I want to just say about MLA format. So, first of all, your font is going to be Times New Roman, right? So, hang on. So, MLA format is going to use the following. It's Times New Roman, right? So for your font, right, it's not Arial, right? You go to Times New Roman, so you just click right up here where my mouse is to Times New Roman. The font size should be 12, right? So like so. The spacing should be double, right? So the way you do that is you go to this button right here, right? See with the arrows where my mouse is on the screen, right? You go here and you press double. Don't add spaces after paragraphs. It's supposed to be 1 inch margins and 1 inch or half an inch indentations, right? So what that means is basically don't mess with it, right? So you change margins in in Google Documents and Microsoft Word by going to View and pressing Show Ruler, right? And by default, it's at 1 inch margin, so just don't mess with it. You get half an inch of indentation by going to the beginning of your paragraph and just pressing tab, like so, right? So, you press tab and it'll go half an inch automatically, right? Just right there on the ruler, right? Don't do it twice or else it'll do weird stuff like that, right? So just one tab, right? Tab being, this button on your keyboard, right? Tab, tab. So that is what you need to do. And works cited is the last page, right? And it is supposed to be on a separate page, right? And we don't have to worry about wasting paper online. So, works cited is the last page, and it's a separate page from everything else. So that is MLA format. And when you hand in your essay, make sure it looks like that. Now, tomorrow I'm going to talk about concluding paragraphs along with a few other small things that we need to talk about as we wrap up our essays. But Friday, we're going to go for our office hours, right? So I was thinking, we can't really have a round circle discussion about the essays, right? Because you're all writing your own essays and everything like that. And I think it would be most helpful for you guys if, we could just talk, right? As if, I'm sitting at my desk at school and you guys are just coming up to ask me questions. So on Friday, instead of having a roundtable meeting, right, what we're going to do is we're going to talk, or rather, here's what'll happen. Let me explain. Okay, pay attention. On Friday at 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I'm going to be in the Google meeting, right? So I'll just be in there, sitting in front of my computer, waiting for you guys to come. And you guys can come at any time between 2 and 4 and just ask me questions, right? Just drop by and say, hey, I want to talk to you about my thesis, or hey, how's it going with this paragraph, or hey, what's it going on with this here. So that's what my plan is, right? So give you guys some time to just ask me questions, right? I know one question that I'm gonna get is, can I hand it in on Monday? And my answer to that is, let me decide tomorrow, right? I think that's sort of based on what I've been hearing from you guys, probably going to happen, right? But let's see. So again, Friday office hours. Come in at any time between 2 and 4, right? It'll be in the Google meeting, so you just join whenever it's convenient for you, and we will talk about whatever you need to talk about in that time, right? You might have to wait a bit if there are a lot of people at once, but hopefully it won't be too bad, right? So I'm sort of experimenting to see how well this works, right? Maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't. Anyway, so that is it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with talking about concluding paragraphs and about wrapping up this essay. And until then, I will see you again next time. Take care, everyone.